All right, hey guys, we're going live again. We're going to be doing the reviews of our Wednesday night games. This which just happened yesterday, and yeah, let's go and take a look at them. Unfortunately, my DG cheese, I don't know. I seem to have problems with them working, especially the first round. I always need someone there to help me. So, fortunately, not all the games were recorded, so I only have like a handful now that we can view. I'm even having a problem right now just trying to try to view the talking part. I do the best I can. Anyways, let's go and take a look at these games that were from this last Wednesday tournament, and then I'll even be doing another stream for Thursday's games, which is going to be Club Championship this month for May. And we even have Miguel Medina Paz, International Master, who's going to be playing in that. So we should have some good games that we can view from him, and then obviously the other top players in the tournament. All right, let's go and take a look at this one. This is my first round. I got to play against Angel Reyes, and Angel is I think he's about 1500, and we've actually played quite a few times. Typically, I usually play a lot of different types of Sicilians against him because, um, I play E4 and then he'll go C5. Um, and I think I played like a few Smith Moores against him. I play a lot of anti-Sicilians against some lower rated. So this time he went ahead and surprised me with the Alekine's defense and went knight to f6. I do have some experience in it, but I wouldn't say I'm too comfortable because I mean, how many times do you actually get to see this opening? So it was a pretty interesting surprise that he did play this. Uh, let's see here. So the game continues. I accepted the challenge. I went pawn to e5, of course, the only way to get the advantage, or maybe not the only way, but I'd say the best way, definitely. E5 here, knight to d5, knight c3. This is an interesting line here. The main line would actually go pawn to d4 here, and typically they'll go like d6, and in the modern way, you'll just actually take on d6, and there's c takes d6 or e takes d6. I believe c takes d6 is the most popular way. White plays pawn c4, and yeah, white has a nice little center, but black has both pawns here. The games do get pretty interesting in these kind of lines. I chose to steer away from theory and just play something pretty simple. I just played knight to c3 here. So knight c3 was played, and typically people will go ahead and take. I take back, and again, this is a very simple idea. I'm probably just going to play it like a English attack and go bishop e3, queen d2, and castle queenside. He chose something a little bit different, very unorthodox, which I believe gave me the advantage. He went knight to f4 here. So yeah, I don't know where the knight's going, so let's just take the center here. Get a free attack with the bishop right here against the knight. The knight went to g6, and here, well, it looks like my intuition, I kind of played this opening kind of fast since he was playing fast. My intuition was correct here, at least from what the computer's saying. I went ahead and just played pawn to h4, just again harassing this knight that's just jumping around, randomly. It almost looks like. He saw the idea, so he played pawn to h5. And here, I went ahead and played bishop d3. This is an idea I've used against the Caro-Kann. And yeah, the idea is very simple. You just want to take on g6, double pawns, and play queen to d3. And it's actually almost impossible to defend that pawn. He went ahead and continued. He played pawn to d6. And here, this was a very nice move killing my idea because now I can't take on g6 right away. I could, but I don't like it as much because after pawn takes queen d3, there's bishop to f5 to get played. And here, maybe white's better here, but I just didn't like that variation as much. So after d6, I went ahead and played knight to f3. And he put bishop g4. And now I go for the exact same idea. Bishop takes, pawn takes, queen to d3. Now I'm attacking on g6, the most natural move he did play here. He went ahead and played bishop to f5. And now queen to b5 check here, attacking the b7 pawn and, of course, the king. Here I was very curious about how he was going to respond because there's lots of different ways to play here, but yeah, if you're not careful, you could definitely get into a bad position here. It's just saying white's clearly in a better position here. c6 can get played, knight to d7, bishop d7, even queen d7 here. The b7 pawn will fall. It's just up to black to make sure that you can get some piece play for it at least. he played one of the most interesting moves. He played bishop back to d7, which I was very happy to see. And here, I could take the pawn on b7, but from what I analyzed, I didn't like it too much. So it's like queen takes b7, bishop c6, queen b3, bishop takes, pawn takes. My pawn structure is a little messed up. Knight goes maybe to d7 here, maybe like rook b8 or something. I don't know. I stopped calculating after like bishop takes f3 just because I saw I wasn't going to get much attacking chances. So instead of taking the pawn, I went ahead and played, looks like the second best move, but which is very, very close. Hey, that's what's going on. I went ahead and played queen to c4 here. Maybe this was an insidious idea. Definitely controlling the light squares, as the light squares are the weaknesses. And looking just to play the simple move knight to g5 here for checkmate idea. He played pawn to e6, and I continued with knight to g5 here. Kind of setting up a little trap here, which I was hoping he'd fall for. He went ahead and played the most simplest move, which I was hoping he'd play. He played pawn to d5. And now after queen to d3, this pawn on g6 is very weak. I mean, basically, it's really hard to defend this pawn. I mean, you could play rook h6, and I mean, I was pretty much looking for some different things. Yeah, no, I mean, this diagonal is very weak. Again, I took this idea from the opening of the Caro-Kann, which the pawn structure is almost the same with this. Here, man, yeah, I was calculating to play knight takes e6 here. Bishop takes, pawn takes back, queen takes g6 check, and yeah, I thought this would be fun for me to play. White's slightly better here, but with the king still in the center and I'm ready to castle, I'd be very optimistic about my chances. Oh, hey, what's going on, Yak? I will be going over your game soon, and it's cool that you're here because I did have some questions about it. You played a really good game. In fact, I'll probably go over it next if you're going to be hanging out with us. What's going on, Slick Rub? So, back to the game. After queen to d3, I was expecting rook h6 to get played because it's the only way to defend the pawn, but I don't know. I think he just didn't play it or see it. He played queen to e7, and now I'm just winning a rook here. Yeah, so I just take the free rook. The rest of the game is not too entertaining anymore as far as the value of the game. So I'll finish this game off fast, and then because Yak is here, I do want to take a look at his game because he had a very interesting game. So I am interested to see what he has to say about it. So queen takes check, king to d8, of course, just knight f7 check, king over, knight takes rook. These are all forced moves here. He played bishop e8, queen to d3. I mean, I can't really give too much criticism in this right now because I'm just up an extra rook here. So check, queen to d8, queen takes c6 check. I mean, everything's fallen. d5 is falling. I'm going to have his king is weak. Yeah. Oh, yes, the pairings are up. So if you do want to take a look, you're actually guess who you're playing against? You're actually playing against the guy I just played and beat. So you're playing against Angel. I forget which color you are. I assume you're going to be white because you got black this last game, right? Yeah, Angel. You're going to be playing against Angel. So, yeah, this is my game. At this point, he went ahead and said, yeah, this is good enough, and he resigned. So since Yak is here, I was going to go over Justin's game next. He played against JP, which is back from his hiatus. I'll go ahead and go over Evan's game versus Yak so I can get a little bit of insight from Yak on this game. So let's go take a look at that one. And this game, Evan's going to be playing with the white pieces. He's rated 1750. He's playing against my student Yak, who is rated 1389 right now. So let's go for it. Let's see how this goes. D4. Evan is a well-known D4 player, and not just a D4 player. He's a London system player. So for those of you who don't know, the London system is basically this. You're going to go D4, bishop F4, pawn E3. You're going to basically build this little hut, and you're going to play pawn C3, knight F3. It's a very, very slow system to control the center and then slowly start pushing forward. Yak knows this, of course, and he prepared his opening pretty well here. He's a London system player. I'm not going to lie, I play it sometimes too, but not when I'm feeling creative. Basically when I'm just like, I don't want to do any thinking, I just want to play something. So knight to f6 got played. Bishop to f4. Again, this is the London system. pawn g6, and Yak plays an opening. I'm very happy. I mean, Yak plays King's Indian, and so the King's Indian against the London system, I've been hearing a lot of interesting things about it. So it was this. I was very happy that he was going to play this system against it. And the reason why this is such an interesting way to play against the London system is because White is trying to control the e5 square right here, and Black's idea is to control e5 also. So I mean, it's an all-out war for this e5 square. If Black can achieve e5 here, then Black is equal, if not better. So let's see if Yak is able to do this. E3, Bishop G7. We're still just getting through the opening moves here. Of course, Yak's going to be castling King Cypher's King's Indian, and then the London system's getting played over here. D6, H3. H3 is a nice move that he instituted after I actually played this King's Indian against Evan, and I played Bishop G4 and trade my bishop off for the knight. And in this King's Indian, this bishop can become kind of bad. So one of the nice ideas is to trade off this bishop for the knight so that the e5 square is easier for Black to get to. So, so here H3 was played by Evan, and he knows this idea. He's added this to his opening repertoire. Castles, knight bd2, all book here, knight c6. I wasn't too happy to see this move by Yak, but I understand it completely with pawn e5 getting played. When I've played this, I will play either knight. I usually play knight b to d7 to allow c5 and e5 to get played, so you can really push against the d4 pawn. Yeah, knight c6 here is interesting. I'm not sure if I like it completely, just because you give options of White playing d5 maybe in the future. Obviously, you can't do it now because knight takes, but yeah, it's interesting here to play this knight c6. Pawn c3, of course. You got your little pyramid right here with the bishop on f4. The bishop usually goes to d3. And this is why playing this King's Indian system is also very good, is because White will typically try to go for a kingside attack. And against a fianchetto system like this, it's really hard to attack the king because you give it an extra piece to defend with. So, rook to e8. Yak has no no time to waste. He's getting ready to press his e5 pawn push. Bishop to e2. Again, I think bishop d3 is maybe a little bit more precise, although with e5 on its way, maybe I don't think you can play bishop d3 right away, because now after e5, there's threats about playing e4 with a tempo. White has to play very specific here, apparently. We have to play bishop g5 to stop e4. But even then, since Black got e5 in, Black should already be happy, and computer's already giving Black as slightly better. Yeah, we're going to take a look in the game and see. Yak played this interesting idea of knight h5 later on, which I'm not too happy with, but he got some play for it. So bishop e2, e5, pawn takes, knight takes. Ooh, why is knight taking? Here I definitely want to take back with the pawn. Typically when you have less space, you want to go ahead and trade off pieces so your pieces can have more room to move, but here I definitely like pawn takes back here more. Just because there's some ideas of bishop g3, and we want to go e4 and play the knight to e5 in the future. So e4 here, knight to d4, and don't trade because this just helps him out. We actually put the knight to e5 here, and you see that you have really good pressure on the d3 square. Maybe even bishop f5 in the future, right? Maybe we can play c5, bishop f5 here. We're just dominating the square. Obviously, if White takes this, well then, hey, e5 is ours, and we have the bishop pair here. So Black is clearly better in this position. Let's see. I miscalculated, but it was very close to working. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm interested to see where the miscalculation is then. Let's see. Oh, there we go. I finally figured out how to open up this thing a little bit more so I can see the chat easier. All right. Only took me 20 minutes. All right. So back to the main game. Yak took with the knight. Again, not my favorite move here, but bishop f5. You can see he's seen the weakness on d3. Bishop f5. Knight c4. It's funny enough, White has less space in this opening, so White's actually trying to get some trades in. Bishop takes. Pawn d5. Taking the center. Bishop back to e2. c5. I'm not loving this move, but I understand it. I might have just kept the simple structure like pawn c6. But computer is giving c5 as the strongest move, so Yak's on the right track, it looks like. So here we go. c5, queen b3. The problem with this d5 move that I have, as far as like going c5 here, is that this d5 pawn is now in an open file, so it can become a weakness. This can become a target, and that's the only reason why I don't like playing c5, because I want to keep maybe c6 here to just defend this pawn. Queen e7, good developing move. Pawn to c4. He's trying to break up the center. And knight to h5 here. A very interesting move here. And here it does say that after knight h5 was played, white now has the advantage. So this was a calculation that Yak had that I assume he must have made, a miscalculation here. This knight h5 move is interesting. It attacks the bishop. Here, yeah, there's some easy moves that you could play just to keep the balance in the position. Rook a to d8, of course, just developing your last piece. I mean, look, how could black be worse in this position where all the pieces are power placed, right? You can also even play maybe like, what else can you play here? d4 is a move. This is computer suggestion, d4. Obviously, you can't take back right away, as maybe queen takes is going to pose some problems here. So yeah, this is interesting. This is interesting. Trapping your queen looks like, again, another little miscalculation here. If d4, pawn takes, queen takes, rook to e1, don't forget about this little guy right here. Queen c2, and now the queen lives to fight another day, and you're just up an extra piece. Yeah, I was looking at that calculation right now myself. So anyways, c4 got played. Knight went to h5 here. Again, not a move I love, but we're going to see what happens. Yak ends up getting to a good position with this. Bishop goes back to h2, and d4 now. It's curious that Yak plays this now. I mean, I assume if he miscalculated the other line, he would have miscalculated this also? I don't know. g4 gets played, and this is the problem right here, right? You're just dropping a piece here. Luckily for Yak, even though he is losing a piece, he still has some compensation with, the king side being opened up, and obviously he has some pressure on e3. So this is what they would say with Carlsen. He blunders with compensation. Even though he is down a piece, he's still got a complicated position, and this king is weak. And if you know anything about Yak, he likes to attack. Yak likes to attack. So let's see how he's able to complicate these matters and try to create something in this. Pawn takes, of course, takes the bishop, and bishop to h6. A very nice, interesting move here. Obviously, not only attacking this back, but also getting some pressure on f4. You can see this nice little maneuver he's going to create here. King h1. Evan's definitely worried about his king. Bishop to f4. A move that I'd be very hard to play. It'd be very hard for me to play, just because anytime you're down in material, it's you usually don't want to trade. But I think Yak definitely has some good ideas about this, because you want to get rid of some of these defending pieces. Yak really wants to play the knight to f4, right? I mean, that's the idea. A knight on f4 is worth a pawn, they say. A knight on f4, f5. But obviously, if you play knight f4 right away, the bishop will take, right? So Yak problem solved that by playing bishop to f4. He wants the knight to get there. Pawn takes. Nice and simple chess here. Pawn takes back. There's no need to get crazy. Wow, it's already it's saying that white is only up a pawn in this position, which is amazing because, well, he's down a piece. Pawn takes right here, and now it's giving that black is actually better in this position. It's amazing how, I mean, again, white was just, in a better position as far as material goes, but it's still hard to navigate these kind of waters. Actually, now computer's saying it is about even here. And Yak is able to grab a little advantage here. Bishop takes h2. And apparently you can't go king takes, which kind of makes sense, right? Like, so if king takes right here, the dark squares get weak, right? And you can see the knight's already on there. Ooh, look at this line. I wonder if Yak had calculated this or not. Queen goes to c7, check. So you're most likely going to lose your rook, and also the rook penetrates at some point also, maybe in the future. Yeah, it gives king h. Well, so if king g2, oh, look at this, queen g3 check, king over. Yeah, no, this is nothing that you'd want to calculate as white. Already here, it's just, ugh, yeah, this is disgusting. Yeah, okay, you did see this. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Evans already got to defend correctly here, and so he plays knight takes h2, but now you drop the rook. So knight check, king over, knight takes bishop. Ooh, he takes the bishop instead. So now, as far as material goes, it is equal. Wow. All right, here we go. King F2 was played. And look at the sick move that the computer finds here. Let's see what Yak plays. Queen E5. Very similar to the idea from the computer, but apparently after this move, white is now much better. Here, Yak was supposed to find the amazingly beautiful Queen C7 here. And I think the main difference between this one and the other one is when you play Queen E5, again, it's the same idea to attack the knight. You're not losing a tempo with Knight G4, attacking the queen and also threatening the fork on F6. So yeah, this is definitely a problem move right here. Again, because of the tempo. If the queen's on C7, you have time to do something else. And I don't blame you for missing that. you know, Evan's a very strong player. I mean, playing someone someone 300 points above you. So it's this is still a very nice game. Knight goes to F3, Queen G3 check, King takes. Wow, this is an amazing calculation here. Rook E7. Obviously, Yak is just losing the piece here, right? Like when the queen moved here, I mean, when the queen attacked the knight moved and attacks the queen, and also we're just trying to take the knight. So, yeah. Funny enough, again, the computer is giving knight to G4 and knight F3 as both about the same strength here. But I mean, being a human, I would definitely play this like Evan did and just play knight F3 and grab the piece. King takes. The king's in the center. Definitely a bit vulnerable, but I believe white should definitely be able to win this. Like maybe we'll organize this rook F2 and rook to G1 here. Knight to F4, you say? Yeah, you would look at something crazy like that. I love it. Queen D6 and Queen C7 basically just do not get that tempo with the knight. Knight F4. I'm not sure. Okay. Oh, so the idea is if like pawn takes, you want to go like queen check here, right? Unfortunately, I think after like the king just retreats, I don't see anything coming in. Yeah, you'd need a rook to get here to try and make anything worthwhile. But even then, maybe just queen G3 and everything's guarded. Try not to force the positions too hard. Simple chess is usually going to be the best. So king F2, queen E5, blunder, knight F3, queen G3 check, king takes, rook E7. Yak's getting ready to target this E7 pawn, also guard on the F7, which is one of the main weaknesses. Rook to D1, interesting move. I like this idea of playing rook F2, rook to G1. Computer just says rook G1 right away. Okay, so rook D1 got played. Rook over here, I mean, this is looking a little scary. You got to defend this correctly. Rook to D3. Okay. A lot of defensive moves here from Evan. Queen takes pawn. Yeah, why not, right? Grab some pawns over here. Rook F2. Yeah, white's definitely better, but they're not organizing their pieces or creating threats like they should. Queen to F5. Queen C3. Awesome. Now we got a good idea here as far as playing like Rook H2 to threaten some checkmates. F6. Here, this is a move that almost necessary as far as the human will go because, well, man, you want to kill the queen's diagonal, but now look at these pawns. They're both weak because they're not being defended. F7 was easy enough to defend, but now you have G6 and F6 weakness. If Evan can organize his pieces correctly, this should be an easy win here. The computer's giving this as +5, but again, still hard to play for most people. Rook G2, he's already putting pressure on G6. Rook E4, B3. Yak has to just kind of like, wait around and see what happens. Rook F4. Oh my gosh, Yak. Always with the fancy moves. Look at this guy. All right, obviously the pawn can't take because the rook's pinning and he's putting pressure on the knight. Rook to D5. Queen to H3. Oh my gosh. If anything, I probably would have been looking at Queen E4 just so I could defend everything. But my little Yak likes complications. So here we go. Queen H3. Rook F2. He does not take the G6 pawn. What is going on? Why can't you take on G6? So I guess the idea here was takes on G6 and then Yak would go King F7, right? He just didn't see the pawn was hanging. I'll talk to him later. Look at this beautiful idea here. Rook takes f6, exclam. If the rook takes back, knight g5. Ew, that's dirty. I mean, if he finds this kind of stuff, you deserve to win, right? Like, this is a beautiful line here. So after rook takes g6, he would have to, move the king over here. And obviously, white's going to be okay in these kind of variations. Okay. So back to the main game. Rook f2 got played. Queen g4. I mean, Yak's just keeps putting on pressure. And if you put enough pressure, I mean, even if it's just feathers on a stone, like it's going to break, man. Queen to d3. Rook e4. Rook to d8. So there's a free pawn here. Rook takes e3. Of course, Yak's not going to miss free pawns here. The queen is overloaded. She has to defend the pawn right here, but also the rook. So queen takes. Rook takes. I mean, slightly getting better now. Oh yeah, watch out for my little Yak with his tactics. He's very, very good at that. He'll find stuff around these positions. I mean, now this position already, computer's giving it +4 for white, but I would say if I'm playing this as white, this would be a very hard position. You lost all your pawns, so your king is very weak, and there's 2 passed pawns over here for black, and these pawns are already even, right? So if Yak can at least just trade off the queens and trade off the rooks, the knight, I would say this endgame, I mean, I would be happy to play this endgame with knight against all the pawns over here. White's definitely better, but it's still a very hard procedure to do. So here we go. Queen to e7. Queen c8. Ooh, apparently computer announces mate in 12. Or no, 10 announces. Mate in 10. One of those fancy positions. Yeah, again here, I'd probably be looking at queen to d7. Or what else do you play here? Rook to d7 now, because then queen takes, right? Yeah, I'd definitely go like queen to d7 here. Again, I'm happy with endgames. Computer announces mate after the crazy knight e5. Whoa. Of course, if you take, it's just a little checkmate. Wow, look at that beautiful little guy. Yeah, again, if you're finding these moves, you definitely deserve the win here. This knight e5 is such a beautiful move because after knight e5, you're stopping one of Yak's idea, which was to pin it and win it. And again, you're getting checkmated again. Wow, knight e5, what a golden move. All right, back to the game, guys. I don't want to go over too many sub variations. I still got 2 more games to review. Rook e8, knight e5. Oh, wait a second. So in the game, after queen c8, he took on f6, rook e8 check, knight e5, and now it says this is a drawish position. Queen g4 check. Uh-oh. Here, computer recommends queen e6. Again, going into endgame, this is the best choice you can do. Yak goes for the attack. Queen g4 check, queen h3 check, rook g2, and it looks like he finally cracked underneath all this pressure after the simple rook to f8 move. Obviously, the rook cannot take because it's being pinned, and he just got pinned and winned. Oof. Takes, knight takes check. Again, this is a very interesting position. I mean, the whole game has just been very, very interesting, right? Like, it's such an imbalanced position. Here, even though Yak is up the queen, you have this perfect pawn structure, which means it's going to be easy for white to try and create a fortress with the knight and the rook. In these kind of games, you have to look to try and sacrifice the queen at the right opportunity to get into an easily winning endgame. Of course, you're going to try to attack the pawns here too. So let's see how Yak does. King over, knight check. I would be curious to know what the time was in this game. Yak does a good job bringing his king over here. The king is definitely looking to get to this a3 square. Knight to f4, queen c3, knight to d5, check. Not really a check you really want to play. Oh my gosh, he brought the knight back, which is great. Again, the king wants to go over here to a2, so you can attack the weak pawn chain. b6, check, over here, okay. Let's see, okay, Yak's finding the idea. He's finding the idea. Queen b1, now we have a new weakness we can attack. But now a3 is weak, so queen b2, a4, and now look how you see the king penetrates and is now putting real pressure on these pawns. Again, you have to sacrifice at the right opportunity Maybe queen takes b3 at the right time after king b4 gets played. Because worst case scenario is if you were able to win all these pawns and you trade the queen for the rook, then this knight, black's going to be playing 3 pawns against a knight. Worst case scenario is a draw for Yak, or he's going to get a win. So queen d4, knight d5, king back, rook e7, check. And finally, he's starting to win these pawns. Yeah, now this is just an easy win here. I'm curious to see where the mistake's going to be at. Knight d6, check, and check right away. Yeah, I can understand why Yak did this, but you can definitely be a little bit more precise with this. I definitely don't think you were forced to trade right away. Okay, so queen takes, knight takes, king takes. At this point, the computer's giving this a draw, which, in my opinion, is pretty crazy already. King c4. Yeah, this is the bad. If you can get the king to b3, then I think you have real winning chances here. This is amazing. 3 pawns, 3 pass pawns, mind you, versus a knight. And knights are known to be one of the worst defender of pawns, especially in endgames. King c4. b5 check. Interesting. I wonder why Yak gave up the pawn right away. Again, the computer's just giving this as a draw anyways. And look, oh, that's the nice idea here. Knight takes, pawn takes, king takes. And it's a drawn position here. You have to be careful with those corner pawns. You have to run the king back, right? If you try to go over here, king just goes to b6 and wins it. So you have to go king back. And the idea here for white's very simple. You can either mirror the king to make sure that he can't escape, which means the pawn can't be pushed forward, or you just get your king over to the corner, and it's a draw. So sample line is going to be king c4, e5, a5. This is the one where you just mirror the king. King c3, king up, king c4. Again, if you march forward too fast, you lose your pawn. So a4, and you just mirror the king all the way down. And king c1. If you go king back, then the king will get to the corner, which is a draw. Or if you push the pawn, if you push the king forward, again, you're just going to mirror king back up, king over, and then it'll be a stalemate draw. Wow. The game concluded like this, though. King takes c5, b4, and here Evan was able to just win the pawns pretty easily here. Very tough game, but a nice game played by both these young players. These are our top players here in San Antonio for Scholastics, top Scholastic chess players. Let's go and take a look at 2 more games. We have JP Hilton playing as white versus Justin Wadsworth. This is our first round, so a lot of higher rates versus lower rateds. I believe Justin is around maybe 1,400, 1,500, and JP is 1,900 or so. I asked JP, he even sent me some notes, so I even have some notes here from JP from this game. JP is a d4 player. Here he goes, d4, d5, c4, c6. Justin has chosen to play the Slav defense. I do not know as much theory in these lines. Knight c3, bishop f5. This I do know, you don't play bishop f5 in these things, especially whenever the queen can go to b3. C takes d5. This is important that he plays c takes d5 first here. If you play queen b3 right away, then black can play queen b6 here and trade off queens. So one of the nice ideas is to take on d5 first, when they take back, and then you play queen to b3. Now you see you're attacking 2 pawns at once, so you win the pawn right away. This is why your bishop should not be going to f5. Shrikar, I believe, I don't know. I want to say he lost. Or maybe he drew. I'm not too sure, to be honest. I'll have to take a look at it in a little bit. Okay, so this is the correct move order. And we're going to see queen b3, which is just like in the game. JP is a d4 player, so he's not going to make these kind of mistakes. Pawn e6, and this is a very bad move. Oh god, yeah, I'll have to talk to Justin about this later. One of the main ideas in these ones is to get control over this d7 square and to play bishop to b5 check. I think that, yeah, this is like a forced loss here. You just play like pawn e4. Pawn takes, Queen takes b7. Oof. Knight d7. Bishop b5. Now you're threatening to win the rook by bishop takes d7 check. Gosh. Yeah, these are non too fun lines here, where white just has the advantage. Ooh, who's blowing me up on my Facebook? Who's blowing me up? Maybe they didn't like what I had to say. Oh, no. That's just my friend. He printed out a calendar. So, yeah, if you could take a free pawn, why not? Queen takes b7, knight d7, bishop f4. Nice move here, developing a piece but stopping Justin's rook to b8 here. Queen to c8. This is an interesting move. Again, typically you don't want to trade when you're down a queen, but black has some activity here. I don't think I would have traded, although I don't think I would have gotten to these kind of positions because I prefer to play on the dark squares. I'm a little bit more aggressive. If you play on the light squares with these kind of pawn structures against d4, these are more strategic minded. JP chooses not to trade queens. a6. I guess he was Justin was worried about knight b5, knight c7. And here, here I think this is when JP had mentioned to me after the game, there was a really nice idea here by black, which is to play pawn to e5 right away. So you give up a pawn, but you're going to be giving a lot of compensation here. So e5 gives some counterplay here. And he gives some sample lines here we could take a look at real quick. Bishop takes e5. Knight takes. D takes. And now go rook to b8. And wow, funny enough, the computer is giving black a negative 1.6. Okay, it's still messing around here, but it's giving black an advantage here. Wow. Definitely have something to learn. So I know why JP was definitely not excited about this. That's crazy. I guess the potential here, I mean, white is definitely underdeveloped here, but black's king is, I mean, black's underdeveloped too, but man, his king doesn't look as safe also. Okay. Well, apparently e5 was the move there, and JP did mention it to me after the game. All right, back to the game. Justin did not find this e5 move, which again I would have a hard time finding. He played a6 instead, rook to c1, and apparently for next few moves, e5 again is one of the moves that you want to play here as black to just try and get some counterplay. Queen d8, oof, moving the queen back where she started from. e3, knight f6, bishop e2. Bishop e7, h3, taking time to stop, I don't know. Queen to a5, knight to f3. Yeah, it looks like white just got away with the pawn. Knight e4. Not sure why he doesn't castle here. I would definitely think castling would be the best idea to do right now. Knight e4, castles, knight takes, rook takes. Yeah, I'm hating this. And wow, look at the beautiful move here, bishop c7, and all of a sudden this queen realizes she's come out too early, and the queen is trapped. A very nice game by JP. Definitely still has it. This was a miniature. This was only 16 moves, so very nice game here. Definitely, he grabbed his extra pawn. He got his king castle, and then he activated his pieces. Nice game. All right, last one before I get off because I do have a 3 p.m. Lesson today. This actually is going to be with a student I'm going to be working with, Nathan. And oh my, so Nathan is rated about 1,000 over the board rating, and he's playing against Chris Norman, which I believe is around 1,600. So let's see how it goes. Nathan's going to be playing with the white pieces. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. Here it comes, guys. Hope you're excited about it. Knight takes, knight c6, the Stafford Gambit. One that everyone's been talking about. Mr. Rosenberg has definitely, or is it Eric Rosen? Sorry, Mr. Rosen has definitely got this very popular. Yeah, it is refuted, and I'll have to talk to him about this. We haven't gone over this opening, so and Nathan could definitely be the type of person that says, "Ooh, free pieces, let's just take it." Let's see how he does though. Knight takes, pawn to d3. I'm not going to lie, I don't really know the refutation to this line. I think I typically play knight c3, d3, which I think is incorrect. So with e5, this should just be good enough. I'll have to take a look at that then. Okay. Here he plays d3, which looks like a reasonable move. One of the big ideas in the Stafford is to play like bishop c5 and attack f2. So if you get d3, bishop e2 in, first of all, you're defending your pawn, but you're just going to play bishop e2 and just defend this g4 threat. So let's see what happens. Bishop c5, bishop e2, queen to d4, and I definitely don't want to castle. You can learn that the wrong way or the hard way, but you definitely don't want to be castling in these kind of situations. Computer is giving this as castles and also white's winning, but the attack that black can get out of these positions is just nothing I want to deal with in my life. I prefer a happy life where I attack. With that being said, how do you defend the f2 pawn? Okay, well, in for a penny, in for a pound, they say. Castles happens, and I'm sure black is very happy with this game. Pawn h5, very typical idea. He's going to go knight g4, putting pressure on the f2 square and also on h2. So if they do end up taking on these squares, the rook gets the open h file. Pawn to h4, and after that, this advantage is gone. Computer just gives a simple pawn c3, queen to maybe d8, and white just keeps up with development here. Just kick the queen back, and that's what it's saying. Keep the queen back and then just develop your pieces. Unfortunately here, Nathan makes one of those moves that is very common, I see, for people to play, but it's a bad idea. Wherever you're weak at, you don't want to move your pawns around there, because all you're doing is creating more weaknesses. I think his idea was to cover the g5 square. Let's see what Chris does to complicate the matters. Knight g4 makes sense. Bishop takes. I don't like that move. But f2 is being attacked, so what do we do? Oh, man. Okay, bishop takes, and he takes back with the pawn. Now he's got that open h file. g3, right? Queen e2. No! Here, I think g3 is like the only move here to defend your pawn. And you have to be careful here. There's already ideas like queen d6, queen takes g3. Maybe just king g2 or bishop f4 should be okay, though. But he misses g3, and yeah, just free pawn, right? Now is giving a valuation as black is just one here. Pawn c3, finally. Forced mate here, though. Wow, this was forced mate. Here, queen f6. So you have to play queen e5 here, and there's no good way to stop this h2 checkmate idea. Very, very common theme. Obviously, you can't go g3 because, well, checkmate in one's never something that you want to happen in your life. What else can we play here? Well, you can't go d4. You can play bishop f4 for a move. Rook e1, but it's just check and then mate. Oh my gosh, yep. And I might actually use that as one of our puzzles from one of our for our tournaments. So c3, he misses it. Queen h6. Again, g3 is going to be a move I would try here. Again, it's not the best, but it's the best I can do. d4, g6. What? Oh, okay. He wants to get to h6 to get the checkmate in, but of course you can't do that because there's a bishop right here. So the idea of g6 looks weird, but the idea is to go queen to h8. Computer gives rook h7, I guess with the idea of playing queen to h4. Okay, so g6, pawn takes, and again, force mate again. Queen h8, pawn f3. Oh, and he misses it. Come on. You see that this is the escape square here, so the move you play is very simple. You just play g3, and it's game over. The king does not have the escape route. Oh, no. Looks like Chris likes forced moves, so he plays rook check, king f2, g3 check. Wow. King e1. Obviously, you're not taking this pawn and getting embarrassed with this checkmate. So you play king back to e1. He survived the storm. Now white is up +4. They're just up the extra piece here, and the king should be okay. But with that being said, you still got to play it correctly. Again, just like with the Yaks game against Evan, these games can be very hard mentally to defend. Rook h2. So here, just develop your pieces. Maybe bishop f4 and knight to d2 maybe. Bishop g5. Not sure where that bishop's idea is. Bishop h3, nice idea. Rook G1, just defend the pawn. F6, okay, bishop F4 now, awesome. Queen H4, what do you play here? Huh. He took on C7. Wow. Double-edged move. So it stops castling and still puts pressure on the G3 pawn. Again, please, knight D2 and run your king over there. Bishop takes. Rook takes. Oh my gosh. Rook check. King to D2. Queen. Oh, what is this? Rook H2. Was there a threat here? What's the threat? Don't you just take the pawn? I mean, maybe I'm missing something. Rook takes, pawn takes, bishop takes. I mean, you can do queen takes too if you like also. I mean, if they ever check, you just run your bishop back. Yeah, no, I don't. He must have just missed it. Not counting. He was playing very fast, and then again, that's typically something that happens with young players. So he played Rook H2, and he plays Bishop takes now, which still not losing. Still not losing. Castle's in check. Here you just play King C2, right? Well, so if King C2, Queen takes G3, oh, you just take the Rook. Don't take the Queen, just take the Rook, and you're still winning. Again, the idea King C2, play Knight to D2, and then just continue development and be up the extra material. Castle's check. You could even just play Bishop D6 here. I mean, there's lots of different ways to win, right? Maybe not Bishop D6. Does Queen G5 check? Oh, no. Rook just takes. I was thinking he was pinned, but it's not pinned. Okay. Yeah, no, all I see are winning lines here. He plays King E3, Queen G5 check, Bishop F4. Here he should play F4, but unfortunately he walks into mate after this simple-looking F4 and loses a pawn and gets checkmated in this winning position. Oof. I am sorry, Nathan. Yeah, no, well, you know, Nathan's on the rise. Chris did a very good job making threats as much as possible. So, yeah, these are all very nice, fun games here. All right, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead and give me the follow. Go ahead and give me the like. I'm going to go ahead and jump off because I got to go do my lesson. We got San Antonio Club Championship today in San Antonio. We have International Master Miguel Medina Paz, who's going to be playing. I'll be reviewing those games tomorrow. Hopefully my DGT will work, so I will have all the games, at least for the top 4, up on there.